Welcome back to another episode of From the Petty Corner. I'm your host, Petty. So this is going to be a little bit of a different episode. Chris, Full Metal Debow, sat in front of me at Power Slap 8, so we are going to do a recap for you guys. Welcome to the corner. Was that your first time ever watching it live in the stands, or have you watched them before
My
in the
only
stands?
previous experience of seeing a live match was during season 2 of the show, where I had that weight cutting issue, so I was able to watch the fights. But being at an event where there's tons of fans, the production is different, everything is different. It was awesome. It was my first time actually being able to watch the fights, and I enjoyed the hell out of it.
Hell yeah. The energy in there was incredible. Watching it from your couch and watching it live, it's unmatched. It doesn't give you the full experience. And a lot of people who don't get Power Slap, they probably won't understand it until they actually see it live or understand the rules.
That's one thing ever since they started doing live events that I had to tell people. I was like, watching it on your phone, it's not, or on your TV, it's not the same. When you're standing in there and you hear that smack and you see someone go down, it's completely different experience.
Yeah, there was a few times that everyone just stood up screaming. So
in unison, everyone's just like, oh my God.
It was wild. I can't wait to go to another one.
Same.
The Hawaiian Hitman versus Dwayne Crespo. I honestly didn't know what the judges were going to say afterwards. I think it could have gone either way. I don't really think anyone did serious damage. I think what had Dwayne over the edge was he had the strongest hit last.
Yeah, I think out of the 3 strikes that they each threw, that Dwayne, they were all pretty comparable. No one took any damage really, but Dwayne did have one that was a little bit cut above the others. And yeah, I mean, I was talking to Brian Ellis about it, and with Dwayne winning that match, now heavyweights that move up to super heavyweight, everyone who's done it is undefeated so far. So we'll see if that streak can continue.
Yeah, he's definitely shaking up the super heavyweight ranks too, because now he's number 1. Everyone's going to be coming for him. So watch out, Crespo. And then the next fight was Jackie Cataline versus Katarina. And I was so excited. I was telling you, I was like, I'm so excited for this. I probably shouldn't have favorites. But just from Jackie's last match and her knockout, it was sad to see her get the disqualification on that. So it was really exciting. I really wanted her to win. Nothing against Katarina, because I feel like her next match, I would like to see her come in and win as well, because maybe the nerves got the best of her. She couldn't really slap on target. But Jackie looked like she was more reserved when she was hitting. She wasn't really using her left arm for momentum, and I think that was strategical so she wouldn't move her feet, but it was taking power away from her. But I think she did great this time.
I think a lot of people, everyone holds their arm in a different position. Some people, they don't use it at all, and I think using it as a counterbalance for your weight distribution, or even just being able to throw it so you have a counterweight when you're swinging, helps a lot to generate power. But with her last match ending so fast, we only get, we can train as much as we want in the gym, but you don't really get experience until you have another match, and you know where you what you got to fix and win, because you're not, even in our training, a lot of us, you're not going to go out there and hit someone full force or let your friends hit you full force to practice. We get to practice at the events.
That's true. Actually, Nate Bernard let his friends hit him.
When you're that big,
before,
when you're that big, you might just let them. But also, maybe that's bad. Nate's been dropped a couple times. Maybe he shouldn't let people hit him.
Yeah, but yeah. Oh, I like your perspective though on the movement and stuff. From a viewer point of view, I just thought, with no experience in slapping, I just thought she was just keeping it close to her, so maybe she wouldn't step, so there wasn't too much momentum.
Yeah, and from the experience of committing a foul, I clubbed Manny in our match twice after I got rocked. Under the new those are the only fouls I ever committed, 2 matches since, but under the new rule set since that match, 2 striker fouls will get you DQ'd. So my match directly after that one, I was really concerned with I was really concerned with my placement, because if she stepped in her last match and that's what they called her for, then she's going to go up there and be focusing on not stepping, but that could cut off part of your power and you just get too inside your head. Because I know that happened to me for sure. I wasn't swinging as hard as I could in my last couple matches because I'm so concerned with doing it right.
Yeah. Well, I thought she did a great job this time. She had power. Her form was good. What was interesting about her first match, though, is they didn't get her for stepping. They got her for clubbing. But she stepped. And, she knew she stepped. Everybody knew she stepped. But they got her for clubbing. But her palm didn't even touch the girl's face. So that was interesting.
I mean, that's when you leave it up, when it's up to the judges like that, like if you don't just get a clean 30-27 or just a clean knockout where no one can like be like, oh, was that a little bit off? It's in the hands of another human and you got to just deal with it.
Yeah, but both of them are so badass for stepping on stage. I would love to see the women's sport grow.
I think after this event, it definitely will.
I hope so, because Paige did well as well, and we'll get into that one. But the next one on the card was Wesley Drain and Isaiah Quinones. And
that one was wild.
Yeah, that one was crazy. I even called it. So actually, I showed my husband a post. It was on Twitter, or X now. When they posted the matchup of Wesley and Isaiah, I commented on it and I said, someone's getting knocked out. So I called it as soon as they released it. And then when we were watching it, I called it again. And then it happened, which was wild. But does Wesley normally go on stage with no shoes?
No, I think that was his first one with no shoes. I think at his last one, he was just wearing some slides, like some nondescript, just slides, which we all thought was crazy because, like, you can, if there is any heel movement, you're going to see it blatantly. But from what I've seen, everyone who goes up there with no shoes on doesn't perform well. Because their experience is like, oh, I'm on mats all the time with no shoes. But these mats are different because they're not as thick. Like you sink into it, the stage a little bit. They don't want anyone punching their head off the floor and dying. So it's a softer than wrestling mats, and I think that throws people off.
That's interesting. But Wesley was never dropped before.
He's been rocked a few times, but he always toughs it out.
Yeah, but he's never been dropped. So Isaiah dropping him was a statement, and he's definitely going to be coming for
that was
John
for sure a feather in his hat
for that title.
Man, yeah, I think you put Azael against Isaiah, and that could be a banger of a match. Because Isaiah's had 2 matches at 185 now, so I just personally, I think he needs another one to fight John. I think that the people that they give like 2 matches to and then give him a title shot, they haven't performed well either. So I think just like to cement himself as one of the best 185ers, he needs to beat Azael. Because then he would have if he beats Azael, he'd have beaten the only 2 people who came close to beating John.
But then they also called flinching fell on Isaiah, and I don't think that was a flinch.
Yeah, it's man, with a lot of these people, it's a timing thing. Like they're trying to brace at the right before the moment of impact, as opposed to standing up there brace the entire time. Or some people they do try to turn away from it a little bit, or even turn into it a little bit, so you could just change the angle. But it's a game of less than an inch if you're trying to move. Like I've seen some people, they try to move their shoulders and keep their head in place, but man, you just gotta I kind of count on the fact that like my opponent's going to be a little inaccurate. So if they're anticipating you're going to move because you're going to brace into it, when you don't move, they end up missing. But everyone's got their own little thing. I've seen I saw some things that I would have considered flinches that night not get called, so I'm not a judge, and it's a good thing.
Yeah. And I think as the sport evolves, things will get better with the penalties and everything like that. I think they did a little bit better job of letting them fight more. I think only one ended in disqualification out of the whole card that we saw live, both because we haven't seen the prelims, the early ones yet. But yeah, I think after Isaiah rocked Wesley, he couldn't even really get a good hit off on him.
I agree. I throw like a lot of those situations. I go back to like what happened with me and Manny. He rocked me on the first one, and then it was playing catch up past that. Like you're trying to deal enough damage to get him on the same level that you are, but you're already buzzed. You're not hitting as hard as you should be. Your balance isn't there. You can't take the shots as well anymore. So you're just at a distinct disadvantage if you get caught on the first one.
I mean, you guys are a special breed because I don't think I could ever do it.
It's the funnest thing in the world. I grew up fighting, playing football, and riding bulls, and this is the biggest adrenaline rush I've ever gotten. It's awesome.
Wow. Yeah, I respect you guys because I don't know if I could stand there and let someone smack me.
When you win the coin toss, though, it's different.
Yeah, not quite. And then how about Vern and Turp Daddy
Slim?
That
match was wild. That was absolutely insane.
Yeah, so Turp came in overweight. I was worried about Vern and then Aspect because we saw what happened when he came in overweight against Wolverine. Vern did get to have the first hit, and I thought he might be screwed if he doesn't knock him out on the first hit. I think people need to put a little bit more respect on Vern's chin. Like, yes, he was knocked out twice, but he's knocked people out 5 times, so he can take hits. And he went out there, he did his job, he did what he was supposed to do, and I hope people respect him. And those two guys are showmen. They always have the most exciting fights. They have exciting personalities. People call Vern a grandpa, but can your grandpa do the worm? I don't know. Like that was pretty epic.
And he's only like 40.
Yeah.
Which in combat sports, that's old. He's also got some of the best power on the roster.
Yeah, he's a farmer. He grew up farming. He's a mechanic. And he did the Highland Games, which is like a decathlon for strongmen. He is definitely going to have a title shot next. That's got to happen.
Yeah, I think Vern earned it because no one's been able to sit Austin down, let alone knock him out. And we saw like Vern after a weight cut and Austin, who did cut weight, but not properly, and wasn't able to get it all off. So Austin, with coming in with less of a dehydration on him, wasn't able to get him. So that was a big accomplishment for Vern.
Do you think we'll see Turp Daddy Slim move up to heavyweight? Because he's been struggling with
I hope not,
weight?
because like he's not a tall, big dude. Like a lot of us came into this a little out of shape, and you've seen a lot of weight class movements and whatnot when people are actually taking it serious and trying to get to the correct level of competition we should be at. And I think that, it could be home stress. It could just be things that are going on at the house or like in his day-to-day life. But I believe I saw a post earlier where he's gotten a personal trainer now. So I think that honestly, he would be at 205 in the future. If not, if he gets in shape, would be at 185 because he's not like a lot of us aren't built like I walk around at like 190 pounds. I'm 5'9". I shouldn't be doing that. It's just I'm a little chubby. So a lot of us should be competing at a lower weight class. We just don't.
Yeah.
So I think if he can get a handle on his weight, then he'll continue to be at 205.
Yeah. So Manny did better at 170 than he did at 185 too. Once he dropped.
This was his first loss at 170. He was 2-2 at 185, and then he dropped down. I was his first match, and then he got Cole, I believe, and then KO Chris, and then KO Chris, and now Blackburn.
That one was wild. We'll circle back to that one, but it just reminded me like he was in a different weight class and then dropped down. Polar Bear versus Dumpling. I feel bad for Polar Bear. He did not even get a chance. There was no chance at all for him. Polar Bear came in and made a statement. People on the internet was like, oh, he weight bullies people. He's fighting in these leagues that don't have the same rules as Power Slap. He came in here, one smack, knocked him out.
And it was clean. He didn't move his feet really, like at all. And it was on the button. He didn't club or do anything wrong. It's hard. Mm-hmm. A lot of people thought that they think that being the taller person gives you advantages because the other person can't reach you as well. But in my experience, when you go against someone taller, it just puts an angle that is perfect for Power Slap. Like you're coming a little bit from the bottom. So if it's shorter, you can definitely get a better hit. And Camille I think he just needs to work on how he takes a shot because it looked like he just stood there and let him get it. He didn't like really muscle through it or anything. Mm-hmm. And I know he was really confident because of his last match. Like he got hit 3 times by the Hawaiian and was able to like come back. But man, that was mind blowing to watch. It was one of the best knockouts of the night.
Yeah, that one was
I think
insane.
Dumpling seriously cemented himself as a threat in that division.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if they just have him skip the line and go straight for the Crazy Hawaiian because there was that call out at the end. The Hawaiians had a lot of fights, and Dumpling's one of the most prominent faces in slap fighting worldwide.
There's only a couple of people that like you Google Power Slap and you'll see other people's faces. And one of them Dumpling, and the other one being the dude who was on season 2 Serene Kamsha with the giant swollen face.
Mm-hmm. And then can we talk about Alexander Volkov walking out Dumpling and then combing his beard? Volkov fought the week before, but in between rounds, like his trainers were combing his hair. So I thought it was hilarious that he came out with a comb and was like
you gotta look
combing
good.
him and stuff. And he changed his Instagram bio. It's like Power Slap coach at Power Slap or something like that, or Slap coach.
Cool. I mean, whatever he told that guy worked. So
yeah, and Dumpling picked him up afterwards.
Stout, man.
Like Volkov's a big guy.
Yeah, he's a big boy. I think Dumpling's a farmer too. Like he's just he's got those work muscles that you can't get from being lazy.
Yeah. So Paige Van Zant and Christine. Man. This was the most hyped up match. Yeah, Dumplings was most hyped up, and then her because she's done it all combat sports. She's done it. She's a very popular face in the combat world. I will say, when we were sitting in the stands, we looked at each other and I was like, oh, she flinched. But then when I came home and I rewatched them, and right before the matches start, Power Slap puts the rules up, and it says for flinching on the defense side, it's only a flinch if your movement affects the slap that the other person's giving. And her flinches were very minor, but the first two slaps that she flinched on,
still caught her.
Flinch that people were saying, the slap was,
the placement was still
like,
good.
Yeah, the placement was perfect on that. The third one, Christine could have got a clubbing if they didn't call flinch, because her movement affected that. So I think that's why they didn't call it. Everyone give her some fucking grace. She's trying to help the sport grow. She's trying to bring women in the sport. So if she moved just a little bit, which is a natural human reaction to something flying at your face.
Of people who had worse flinches get away with it because it wasn't caught. So I don't think it was bad. It just seems like she had extra pressure on her because, like, she's coming from such a professional background. So, like, people were just keeping an extra strict eye on her. But I think they were super blatant. Yeah. Like I said, I've seen way worse ones. But I think it's just something that a lot of people with extensive MMA backgrounds need to work on, because they've spent their whole lives training to not let that hit them. So just human instinct kicks in, and years of training, and you want to move away from it.
Yeah, exactly. But I think she did great. I think if she still continues to fight, it's going to draw more people in, maybe some old rivals that she's had in bare knuckles, boxing, or UFC. She just needs to work on the flinching. Her form was great. Her power was great.
Good. She rocked her a few times.
Yeah, and Christine couldn't quite figure it out, and maybe it's might have been Paige slapped her so hard the first time that kind of had her off. But yeah, that was definitely an exciting one to watch. Okay, we have Manny and Blackburn now. So I was wearing a red wig for Manny, and you were wearing a Blackburn shirt. I think Manny's downfall was, does he normally go on one?
No,
I don't
he doesn't.
think so, right?
I think he was just trying to flex. I ain't gonna lie.
So like Matt's what Anthony would do. So I think that might have been his downfall. He started off slower. I also think that maybe his hair could affect him, because it makes it look like the strikes are more effective, like that Blackburn strikes were more effective on him because his hair moved, so it maybe made it look like it was stronger than what they actually were. And then there was
one of the hits where Manny got hit, he was grabbing his face because it he was like, that one actually hurt. So I think that fooled the judges a little bit on the pain scale. Yeah. As far as like what else could have swayed it, I know Manny had the one foul in the beginning of the match, so he was already down a little bit. And then two of his shots, the one like when he went on one, it seemed like it was just part of the hand and mostly fingers. So still a good shot, but I think the placement was off and he just missed a little bit, so they weren't as significant. And Blackburn did 5 in the same spot, just each one at the same consistent level of striking. And even though Manny was able to buzz him a little bit in that last one and make him jump, that it wasn't enough to sway the judges.
Yeah. I honestly thought it could have gone either way. Congratulations to Blackburn. He was the better striker that night, so he deserves it. I would love to see a rematch because it came down to a split decision. It wasn't like, someone got knocked out, and I think they could have I know they're very friendly, but I think they could have a great rivalry. And then if Manny wins the next one, if they do rematch, then they'll have a setup for a trilogy.
Sure. I think it's honestly more warranting than Manny having to rematch KO Chris, because that ended with a knockout and he got an immediate rematch. And this one's a split decision, and it came down to just the judges and who thought who won. So I think like if they really want to cement who's the welterweight champ, that a rematch is just the right place to go.
Yeah, and I think that when it came down to a split, like Blackburn didn't think it was coming because he was like pointing over to Manny. But it's a fun one to watch. Love both those guys.
One of the prime examples of people talk about how like the only thing cool about Power Slap is the knockouts, and that if you don't get a knockout, then it's not a good match. And you see something like that happen, and you don't know who won. You're for your guy, but you like it's the ones that go the distance are my favorite.
Yeah, and I mean it was the best against the best. Blackburn started out strong. Manny started out not as strong, but he finished strong. And another thing was, I think Blackburn was consistent the whole time. It was hard.
Like me and Blackburn and a couple of the other guys, we all started at the same time before Power Slap 1. So like we came in after the OGs of season 1, but before everyone else. So seeing all the growth to him go, because Blackburn also came from 185. He wasn't at 170 in the beginning either. I mean, he only had the 185 match, but coming down from being a dude who's not as in shape to, like, I talk to him on the daily basis in our group chats and whatnot, and he's been busting his ass. He's one of the only guys out there that has someone that he's working with and putting camps together and like working on, like, a lot of these guys, when they're like, oh, I'm working out, I'm training this and that, they're training in the gym. They're not specifically working out just power slap mechanics and what they can do to make their strike better. And yeah, I think he earned it. I think he did a really good job.
Yes, I agree. Another thing too, talking about strikers not working on their techniques and things like that, I think that's their downfall too.
Yeah. Like even
because there's a lot
like
of fouls.
Chris, he like talked shit on us a while back, talking about like a lot of us saying like, oh, we get better each event, and he's like, if you don't already have your slap honed in, then you're years behind, etc. This and that, and we saw what happened to him. I think he's like honestly got one of the most padded records because he knocked out 5 people who didn't know what they were doing, and then after a year off, he goes against people who've got some experience and a couple matches under their belt, and he gets knocked out both times. So I think the fact that he wasn't training because he thought he was the shit and drank his own Kool-Aid and believed the hype, it straight up was the downfall, because you can naturally, like all of us naturally hit hard, but it's the placement, it's the wind up, it's everything. Like being able to, it's like golf or baseball. It's like you can do it, but can you do it in front of people? Can you do it when it matters?
And if you come from a golfing or baseball background, you have to get used to not lifting your leg when you're following through too. Especially. So that's like another.
Like people pivot so dirty when they're boxing because it's the natural way to generate more power.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I would love to see a rematch there. It would kind of suck for the rest of the welterweight because they're going to get held up, but I think that's what they both deserve.
I mean, I think that the top 5 is kind of, other than Manny and Blackburn, the top 5 is really lackluster right now. So we need some more division growth anyway. Start putting the lower ranked guys against the people in the top 5 so we can cycle out the people who have already been beat a bunch and foul a lot that are up there.
Hopefully we got some new guys on Road to the Title 3.
I'm excited for that.
I heard some welterweights, because I met a few of them and they're really cool. Okay, so the main event, the Crazy Hawaiian versus Danny Pitbull. The Crazy Hawaiian keeps his belt, but in the first round, I don't think that should have been a clubbing foul on him. Yeah, he flinched. He kind of leaned down a little bit in the second round, but the first round, if you're going to call clubbing on the Crazy Hawaiian, then you need to call flinching on Danny, because Danny had chalk on his shoulder, because when he was about to get hit, he leaned down, so the Crazy Hawaiian hit his shoulder, and that's what caused his slap to get messed up.
Yeah, like I said, people with extensive combat sports backgrounds, that like the moving into it, the moving away from it, it's just natural. Something that they're going to have to be able to breed out for this sport.
Yeah. But kudos to Danny Pitbull, because he lasted all 5 rounds.
It was awesome.
He knocked out one of the Crazy Hawaiian's
he did?
Yeah. Slap News posted an interview with the Crazy Hawaiian. So if you go back and watch the video, like he had a white mouth guard in, and it was like bloody. So the Crazy Hawaiian like knocked out one of his teeth, and he said he thought he swallowed it because he didn't spit it out. No, he couldn't find it. It was in the first round too.
I mean, kudos to Danny, because like, I mean, I was partial. I wanted Danny to win just because we're friends from the house. But man, like people talk about like the brain injuries and power slap, and like we've had no brain injuries so far. We've actually stopped a couple of people who had brain problems from even being able to compete because they couldn't make it through medicals. So they would have never known had they not gone through this testing. But we've had broken orbitals, a broken jaw, some broken hands, and now someone knocked out a tooth. It was about time.
Yeah. And what I don't get is when people talk shit about power slap, is because look, if you compare it to boxing and how many times a boxer gets hit in the head in different places in one round, and they go 12 rounds max.
I think Paige.
Power slap, you're getting 3 to 5 hits, and it's right on the jaw. So like your jaw is taking most of the impact before it can get to your brain, right? But if you're getting punched here and all over the place, your brain's rattling,
and you can get hit like hundreds of times over the course of that match, as opposed to 5 to like if they flinch a couple of times in the championship fight, you maybe hit them 7-8 times in a 5-round fight. So I mean, Paige talked about it in her, I believe it was a Slap News interview afterwards. She was like, she likes it because like people are really concerned about the damage, but in her entire camp, she didn't take any strikes to the head. And then her match, she only took 4. So to be able to compete and like, we only get hit a few times every couple of months. We're not taking as much damage as people think we are. They just see the knockouts and they're like, oh my God.
Yeah. And in boxing too, not just the fight, but when you're in camp, you're
boxing,
sparring every
UFC,
day. So how many hits do
UFC
you get?
and boxing, I mean, so many injuries come from training camps. And like fights get missed or fights aren't as good as they should have been because the guy caught an injury. So the fact that like we don't, I mean, aside from Brian Ellis, who lets his friends hit, not Brian, but aside from Nate Bernard, who lets his friends hit him in the fucking face because he's crazy. We don't take damage in between fights. So we just show up every 1 or 2 months and take 3 or 5 slaps and then go about our business. It's really not that much damage. It's surface damage, a lot of soft tissue that gets swollen up and it looks real bad, but we're not out here getting beat up like a lot of these people are for their training camps.
Yeah, exactly. So everyone can shut their mouth.
It's safe.
Yeah. So those were all the cards on there. What do you think is next for Pitbull and the Crazy Hawaiian? I feel like they're going to have Dumpling skip the line, maybe. Because I feel like that's something that the world wants to see as a whole.
I think it's a superstar factor that's going to get him to skip the line. But, like, you know, me, I think he, like, with that's one knockout, okay? So give him somebody else who's, like, in the 7 to 9 ranking. And if he can knock them out, then there goes his title. But I think that, like, just one more match, like, maybe put him against Dwayne or put him against the Crazy's brother. Yeah. Put him against Hitman or Dwayne or Danny even. Or McKinney. Yeah, that'd be awesome. I know he was tore up, not like about this whole thing with Danny getting the title fight and he wasn't. So that'd be a great one. And he's not as tall, so it'd be a lot like more even match, I think.
Yeah. That'd be a good one to see. If Big Mac could pull that off, then he can be like, okay, like I proved to myself that I do deserve the title. But I just feel like for slap fighting as a whole, even outside of power slaps, just something that people probably wanted to see for a long time because the Crazy Hind was one of the biggest names, and so is
100%.
Dumpling.
I think just me being off of like people got to earn it a little more. I think like put him against Dwayne or the Hitman or Danny, but like the superstar factor could just get that, especially like when you have the champ calling you out. That helps a lot. Like it's not just you did it and the people want to see it and you want it. You want the title, but like when the champ's like, who else is there? I want this guy. That can make it happen a lot faster.
Yeah, and where power slap is still so small and growing, that would be ginormous for the sport to have that fight.
It's just power slap's growth is exponential. Going from power slap 1 and seeing how things were handled and now power slap 8, it's night and day difference. And like for all the people that are like me, who like you're waiting several months for another match because the roster's expanding and they're having to focus on other weight classes. It's like we could have all just gotten our matches back to back and kept asking and been like, run through those extra matches that you wanted, but you would have had them all picks. Now that we're waiting and power slap is still growing step by step, who knows where your next match is going to be? It doesn't have to be in front of 200 people at the Apex. It can be in front of a couple thousand and on a big stage. So I think the waiting game is just getting to people and get patient. It's fine.
Yeah. Another thing too, Frank and Dana, this message is for you. Maybe they could, because I feel like it's like every other month that they do it. Maybe, you know, in between those months that they're actually like getting in these bigger venues, they can just do smaller ones in the Apex, just so people are staying active and getting more training and things like that.
I know one of the things that they're really wanting to do is to put on more events. I don't know the mechanics and the fucking way to go about doing all that, because I'm sure it's expensive, and I'm sure that like Dana, he's made it his job in the UFC and in Power Slap to just put on the best fights. So working around everyone's schedules, it's got to be difficult. But I believe this time next year the events are going to be more streamlined, and we will be able to compete more often. It's just a waiting game at the moment while they find themselves. Yeah,
and the money it costs to put on one of those shows. So it's just probably just continue letting it grow, and eventually it'll be like the UFC where it's on
Yeah,
every
that's
weekend.
the goal, man. I believe Dana said he wants power slaps on Fridays, UFC on Saturdays, and WWE on Sundays. So all the weekends locked down.
Yeah. It's like the most depressing thing when the UFC has a
So
break on a
when
Saturday.
you
Like,
gotta
I don't think
skip a
there's one
week or
this
two, it's
weekend.
just like,
Yeah. Yeah, and it's the worst when there's no, like, I'm a boxing fan too. So it's like the worst when there's no boxing or UFC. It's like, well, what the hell do I do
I
with
don't
my
watch.
life now? 'Cause it's like my Saturdays
I
are
don't
for
watch football
violence.
really. Like I like watching baseball, but so when there's no baseball
Mhm.
season and there's no UFC fight on that Saturday, and I'm just at the bar looking at the TVs, like, all right, now there's nothing to do.
And Dana White was saying that this reminds him of the UFC in the early days, like about a lot of things, but like the guys were like all super close, and it was just like all the fighters against the world because they were like talking shit about the
Yeah,
sport and everything. But then eventually you guys start to hate each other and create these rivalries, and so it'll be interesting to watch all that
yeah,
pan
and
out.
you can start off a nice guy and then turn into a dick, but like the people who start off being mean, you can't get back to being a nice guy for a while. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I think everyone goes about it different. Like if you're one of the people who tries to make everybody your friend, then when you end up going against your friend, maybe you're having a hard time with it. But if you just start off making enemies and piss everybody off and say, "Oh, I'm here for this," like I don't care who you are, you're a bitch, then it makes it a lot easier to just
Hmm.
take what you want.
I feel like there's some of those guys on
Yeah,
season
I hope
3.
so. We need some more active personalities.
Yeah, more rivalries because that's what makes it more
Mm-hmm.
exciting for the fans. So, so get on the penny corner and start
Exactly.
talking
Talk
shit.
some shit.
And a coincidence, I was sitting right in front of you, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah, this was a fun recap. It was just happenstance. We were sitting next to each other in the stands, so being able to watch it and then talk about
Yeah,
it's cool.
yeah, that was awesome. Because I'm like the fan, and then you're like the striker, so we have like
And I'm
different
a fan too.
perspectives. But it was also your first time watching for a
I'm a
fan.
fan too. I'm one of those people who's like I didn't get called in because like I have like a fighter's background or like I'm popular in sports or anything. I
Hmm.
just saw clips from season one and was like, oh, I could do that, and I signed up. So I started out like being like, oh, this is cool, I could do this, and fan of it the entire
Hmm.
time. That's why I just even when I'm not fighting,
Yeah.
I show up at all the events. Like I want to see the homies. I want to see the fights. I want to be around it. This is turning like it's my world. This is what I got to do.
Yeah. Why do they not do the early prelims on the actual card? Like, why do they record them at
I think it
different
just gives
time?
them some space to where they can drop content in between live events. Because in the beginning they did a lot of that. It was like I've had 4 matches and 2 of them were on pre-recorded, so they were dropped like a month or so after the match actually happened.
That sucks though,
Yeah,
because like I really wanted to see Jules
yeah, it
Scott
definitely
and Zach Zane.
from a
Like,
fan perspective, and even like being an athlete in that match, like you're just waiting on it, like you can't talk about it. You're just waiting, twiddling your thumbs. So it definitely sucks, but I get it. Like it's like we can't put on a live event every month or every week like we want to. So giving them
hmm,
content in between, it's definitely a smart move.
that makes sense. Well, they can just hire me and I'll give them content. I'm just kidding. Thank you so much for being here. It was such an exciting event as a fan, and your first time being a fan in the stands and having your input from a striker. I hope to see you at another event, and I can't wait to see what's next for you.
100%. It was awesome meeting you guys, and I enjoyed being on. Like, I think you're gonna be able to. And I don't know what I'm talking about. It was a good time.
Thank you. And I'm definitely going to have you back on so we can hear your story and share it.
Appreciate it. I'm looking forward to it.